Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of Friday Night Live with me, Hafiz Shaban, on this Friday, the 18th of September. Friday, the 18th of September, corresponding, I believe, to the first of Safar, first of the second month in the Islamic calendar, 1442. We are, of course, broadcasting live on Luton on 105.1 FM and nationally across some of our sister stations, Sheffield Link FM, Peterborough, Salam, Derby, Nottingham, various stations nationally, and also, of course, broadcasting live via the Inspire FM app, via the Inspire FM website, and of course, also streaming live on Facebook via StreamYard. So, plenty of ways to tune in tonight's discussion. And let us hear your thoughts. Let us hear your views. Make Friday Night Live your favorite Inspire FM broadcast. And now I know it's already your favorite broadcast, Inspire FM broadcast, but it would be nice to hear from you. Go on to the Inspire FM website page, go on to our Facebook page, and give us a like. Let us know what you make of the show. Tune in, most importantly, join today's conversation, join today's debate. Some interesting hot topics we're going to be discussing. I want to hear your thoughts. You always hear my thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts. Your opinions do count. 01582 481822. 01582 481822. The number for SMS, WhatsApp messages 07779 481822. 07779 481822. Send me an SMS. Send me a WhatsApp. Just send me a brief message if you're listening with your thoughts, with your comments, or with your thumbs up, inshallah. A couple of announcements before we kick off tonight's show. Firstly, of course, we are still broadcasting live from home. Apologies in advance for any technical issues, any interference, any interruptions during our live broadcast. Apologies in advance. And also just a reminder that Maghrib Azan today will be at 7:13, so right in the middle of tonight's broadcast. SubhanAllah. What a lovely afternoon it is, what a lovely evening, and what a lovely last few days it's been. Wow, we have really been blessed with incredible weather. Right, tonight I'm speaking to Usman Zahid Saab, a BBC Pakistan producer. Hopefully we're going to get through to Usman Saab. Last week, I believe, we had some problems. We've got Dr. Anas Takriti, CEO and founder of the Cordoba Foundation. We've got Professor Kamal Hawash, and we got a number of local council representatives that we're going to be speaking to today, inshallah ta'ala, and a number of different stories. Let me just tell you the main two stories I'm going to be covering tonight. Of course, a number of other stories we're going to be covering, but main two stories are firstly the horrific, the horrific motorway gang rape, which took place last week in Pakistan. Is shocked the nation. We're going to be asking questions of why these kind of occurrences are on the increase in Pakistan. What's been the reaction? What's the latest in the investigation? And what is it that is driving this kind of craze across some of the Muslim nations and also in the Western nations, So that's the leading story. So if you heard about that story, if you're from Lahore, if you're from Pakistan, you heard about this story and you've got comments or thoughts, share them with us, please. And then also, the other main story we're going to be covering from 7 p.m., is you must have seen on Tuesday there was the ceremony that took place in the United States of America, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain. I've come to the negotiation table and I've signed a treaty with Israel. Of course, orchestrated and brokered by the United States of America. So I'm going to be speaking to experts and unraveling what's been happening and who's making the most out of this deal, Is it in the interest of Palestine? Is it in the interest of the Islamic nations? Or is it in the interest of Israel and America? So we're going to be asking that question later. So those are some of the stories, a number of other minor stories, you can say that, We're going to be covering. But that's about it in terms of the introduction, inshallah. I think it's time to go ahead and start the opening story. Right, so inshallah, we should be getting through to, I'm already getting some messages from my producer to tell me, all right, so we're going to get a first guest lining up in the next 2 minutes. Okay, we're having problems with the BBC producer, Usman Zahid Saab. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to speak to him because I believe we had similar issues last week. Now, anyway, let me go out to my listeners. Listeners, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about this story. I'm sure many of you are from Pakistan. I'm sure many of you have heard a number of similar stories unfolding within Pakistan. Those of you that are from India, in India, it's been going on for a long time. Maybe even in Bangladesh, I'm not sure, or, in terms of specifics in Bangladesh. But the motorway gang rape shocks the nation in Pakistan and has shocked many, many, many. The woman, this woman was attacked when her car broke down in the early hours of Thursday, right? This is last Thursday while she was driving from the city of Lahore, capital of the Punjab province, to Gujranwala with her children. Now, if the attack on the woman is not just horrific, right, enough, then the fact that she was traveling with her children and this attack occurred in front of her children is just the most heinous and the most callous of crimes that you can ever imagine. Unforgivable crime, right? But this has happened in Lahore, it's happened in Pakistan, and you know what? It has caused an outcry in Pakistan. Now, if you've heard about this story, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your comments, right? 9th of September, gang rape, robbery of a mother on the Lahore-Sialkot motorway, right? When her car stalls or apparently ran out of fuel, right? 10th of September, a day later, the Punjab government spokesman announced that police have arrested 12 men. They are suspected of involvement in the alleged gang rape and robbery of the mother, right? So I believe I've got my first guest. I can't see my first guest. Okay, I can now. It is is it Dr. Saeed?
Yes, yes.
Ah, fantastic. I've got the name right. So Dr. Saeed, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Friday Night Live.
Walaikum salam.
So we're just covering this, and of course, Dr. Saeed, you are an author and political analyst. I believe I've got the introduction here. I don't know whether you're joining me from Pakistan or whether you're actually based here in the UK. But what is the latest on this story? I mean, obviously, a horrific crime has shocked the nation, and we'll discuss a bit more about it in detail. But bring our listeners up to speed with what is the latest with the case and the investigation.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. No, I'm based in London. I have been living here for the past 30 years.
Okay.
I'm not really very much updated about the minute-wise updates on this case. Right. But I know this has been much in the media. I know what happened, the unfortunate event. But more unfortunate than the event is are the different reactions which are coming. The first reaction was of a police officer. He was saying why she should have been driving there. Sometimes people say in rape cases, I have been watching this scenario in India, Pakistan. Sometimes people say why she should have dressed like this. They seem to lay blame on the victim.
Yeah, but so there's justification for it. But tell me about some of the other reactions. I heard about the police officer in charge making that comment. What has been the reaction from the politicians? Are they accepting any of the blame for this culture that is now fast becoming a norm, almost, if I dare to say, in Pakistan?
Well, the politicians are blaming each other and trying to score points. But the problem is, to be fair and honest, what the present government, what Imran Khan is trying to do, he might be trying to put things right. And these are the things things like rape and other things, these societal problems, they will not get, it will not be everything will not become right in a moment, all of a sudden.
Okay, but there's a question here. I agree, nothing is going to change overnight immediately, right? But we need to understand how we've got here, Dr. Saeed Saab, right? Because a lot of comments that I've read, a lot of articles that I've read on this issue is that Pakistan, this wasn't a nation. This is not a society that is accustomed to this kind of horrific crimes, these kind of heinous crimes. It's a very traditional conservative society, generally speaking, right? It's got its Islamic ethos, principles, values, right? Which of course, protect the honor of the woman. A lot of commentators, some of the commentators that I've read, are pointing their fingers towards the liberalization of society, right? Others are pointing fingers towards democratization of society, i.e., go out and enjoy yourself. Women almost becoming a kind of a sexual commodity, as sometimes they are actually, marketed almost in the West, right? So a lot of people, Indian analysts, commentators, and even Pakistani commentators, analysts, are pointing fingers towards a liberalization of society, which is really kind of brought down the values, brought down the respect for the woman from a figure of motherhood and a figure of respect to almost a kind of a commercial object. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I won't agree with that fully. Yeah, there's a grain of truth in that.
Right.
Liberalization is a very loose word. I don't know who means what by this,
Right.
but uh, ultimately it's a host of other factors, and chief among them is the very proper law and order machinery. And we must also consider one thing, which is a nexus between mafias, political groups, police. Now, something happened 2 years before. A small girl was kidnapped and then
Yes.
killed. Zainab was her name.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then there came an investigation report by a journalist called Dr. Shahid Masood.
Right.
Shahid Masood reported that there's a huge mafia working with this, and they have their connections in Dubai and bank accounts. And he said this is a very organized gang who are doing this.
Okay.
But what happened? He had to flee the country. He had to escape, and he was saying, "I am fearing my life in Pakistan." But then he came back after two
Okay.
three days.
So
But this nexus itself is a very important thing that has to be considered.
Dr. Said, you're pointing your fingers towards law and enforcement, right? Okay, so the question is, right, you cited this example, all right, I've got a number of examples in front of me. 6th of September, the burnt corpse of a 5-year-old girl was found in Karachi. In January 2018, 7-year-old Zainab Ansari, which you referred to, right? According to the Punjab police, there have been at least 2,043 registered cases of rape and 111 cases of gang rape in the province this year, right? Are you saying that this is all mafia and organized crime, and it's a lack of policing and a lack of of accountability and punishment within the Pakistan penal system? That's a cause of this escalation, or is it a case of a combination of that plus the liberalization, or whatever you want to refer to it, that's driving this kind of a trend? Because we're seeing this not only in Pakistan. I mean, India's got a horrific legacy and a recent history with regards to women, right? And also, we see a very kind of a liberalization kind of a trend within India too.
Yeah, I mean, I said this, but I will repeat that this is a host of factors. Law and order is one of those things. And
Right.
because law and order is something which is where the mechanics is clear. It's a mechanical thing, sort of. I mean, it's a structured and mechanical thing.
Dr. Said, my question to you is law and order. What has changed in the last 20 years, right? Law and order, the same penal system has existed with regards to rape. The laws of rape, or the punishment of rape, hasn't changed over the last 20, 30 years. But 20, 30 years, or even 10 years ago, you never heard of these kind of horrific stories at the level and at the frequency that you're hearing now. So it's not law and order that's broken down, or is it broken down? What are the other social fabrics or criteria that has changed in that society, that has deteriorated that society, and now that society is producing this kind of horrific crime at such a frequent level?
Yeah, The social dimension is it's connected with so many things, and chief among them is media. And what what your eyes come across, what you see, what you hear, that depends, that determines what goes on in your mind. So now the social media, the YouTube, so many things, everything is available. And Pakistan's film and drama, they are responsible. They are a chief, a big factor in this. They are promoting promiscuity and all this. And they're what they have done, as you said, in the past, it has been growing for the past 20 years. I mean, uh, yes, I mean, they have contributed a lot to it. And it is pathetic that it is now being taken as a sort of feminist, or those, you will see those women on roads who are who are in a way responsible, in the sense that they are also a part of that corrupt media, and the
Right.
media which corrupts human minds. They are a part of that,
So
and
let
now
me
they are taking up.
Okay, okay. So Dr. Said, let me go out to my listeners. Listeners, just a reminder, you are with me, Hafiz Shaban, on Friday Night Live. We are discussing a very, very important subject matter. I've got Dr. Saeed with me on the line from London, who is of course an author and a political analyst. We are discussing, I mean, unfortunately, a very horrific story that unfolded last week in Pakistan, the Motorway gang rape, which has shocked the nation in Pakistan. I'm asking the question to Dr. Saeed. What are the factors, what are the political factors, what are the legal factors, what are the social factors that are driving this kind of craze? I mean, alhamdulillah, it's not at the levels that we see in the West necessarily, right? But the fact is that we're seeing a lot more of these kind of stories, a lot more consistently in Pakistan, right? So I'm trying to understand what is driving this. I want to know your thoughts, right? Your opinions. If you've got thoughts and opinions on this subject matter, then you know what? SMS me, WhatsApp me, and I'm going to try to get your thoughts into the show. 01582 481 right? 07779 481 You know, Dr. Saeed's talking about media, he's talking about drama, he's talking about theatre. I mean, I can't remember the name of the actor, right? But I remember a couple of days ago, a social media message going around, right, that this particular famous Pakistan actor was live on one of the shows, and was acknowledging very openly that he's had a number of affairs, adulterous affairs, whilst of course being married, right? So this is now on mainstream media. As the sexualization of women in Pakistan increase, is that a result, or is that, sorry, not a result, is that an influence, is that a factor? Right, I want to hear your thoughts. 01582481822, Of course, it doesn't explain the horrific crime at all, but that's the reality. Dr. Saeed's point is interesting. Law and order. Let me go back to Dr. Saeed, but I think he's gone. Let me see if the producers can try to get back in touch with Dr. Saeed and find out what is happening. There we go. Dr. Saeed is there. Dr. Saeed, Jazakallah for holding on. I was just trying to get to my listeners and see if we can get some contribution from our listeners. Dr. Saeed, you were mentioning law and order, right? Earlier, and we were discussing around law and order. I mean, I've got a comment here from Imran Khan on this issue. Let me see. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan's office said the protection of women was a priority for the government, adding that such brutality and bestiality cannot be allowed in any civilized society. Okay, protection of women is a priority for the government. What have they done in the past, and what do you think that they're going to do to ensure the protection of women is going to be a priority for the government, Dr. Saeed? Can you hear me? No, I don't think Dr. Saeed can hear me. I can see him, and he looks frozen. So if we can, inshallah, producers, if we can try to get through to Dr. Saeed, please reconnect And then we will try to ask that question once again to Dr. Saeed, inshallah. All right, I'm just navigating between different windows here. All right, alhamdulillah, we've got some messages coming in on the social media platforms. Assalamu alaikum. It's social society breaking down, and especially media in Pakistan, where the dramas are brainwashing towards affairs. Youth have pressure towards relationships. If you don't have it, you're wrong and weird. Jazakallah khair, brother Asif, for those comments. Any other comments? I want to hear from my listeners, because all of us have seen, the change in attitudes in the media, in drama, in the Lollywood industry in Pakistan. What about law and order? What about law and order? Dr. Saeed's point was that law and order is responsible, because if there's not a firm accountability, not a firm penal system, not a firm punishment, never mind a judiciary, never mind a police system, then these kind of crimes and such criminals tend to get away with their crime. And therefore, if you can get away with their crime, that breeds a culture of people willing to reoffend, right? So let me know what you think, what your thoughts are on that. 01582481822 0781822. Right. All right. So we've lost Dr. Saeed by the sounds of it, inshallah. So all right, and we've got no. All right, we're trying to reconnect. All right, so let's see if we can reconnect, inshallah ta'ala. By the way, producers, he is actually based in London, so maybe even an audio, if we can't get a video, would be useful. All right, so let me go back to the story. Questions that I'm asking is: horrific, heinous crimes seem to be on the rise in Pakistan. What is the cause? Right, 6th of September, burnt corpse of a 5-year-old. January 2018, the 7-year-old Zainab Ansari case. That was really, really horrific and really made headline news. And these kind of statements from people like Prime Minister Imran Khan, that we're really going to take these cases and the women's rights and the honor of the woman seriously. You know what? It needs to be translated in action, because that was 2018 January. We're looking at 2020 September, and we're hearing the same statements. I haven't seen action, right? So if someone's a PTI supporter out there, maybe you can SMS or WhatsApp me or call me and speak to me and tell me, what is PTI doing? What is PPP doing? What is Nawaz Sharif, any of the a political party? What is their agenda when it comes to safeguarding the honor of our women folk and protecting the women in terms of in society? And the point that I was making earlier, that it's not a problem which is restricted to Pakistan, right? India has a major problem. Let me give you an example. 7th of September 2020. This is a couple of days ago, same week that this other horrific incident took place. The world's so-called biggest democracy, India, was shaken after the rape of an 86-year-old grandmother. Now, you know what? I don't like to, quote such facts and bring on such these kind of incidences and stories on radio, but that's the reality of what we're seeing, right? As for the global standard bearer of democracy, the United States of America, almost 1 in 5 women have been raped at some time in their lives. That is horrific. In the United States of America, almost 1 in 5 women have been raped at some time in their lives. And these are the kind of statistics and figures that are available when it comes to women's rights. And that's why some of the commentators, when they're discussing that, they're talking about, and their comments are, right, that democracy has fundamentally failed the women folk, right? It has failed them, and it has failed to provide security for women. That's the question. 01582481822007779 481822. It would have been good to get a latest update on the case from Pakistan. But what I can tell you is, unfortunately, that we haven't been able to speak to the BBC producer, and we've lost Dr. Saeed. But I tell you what's happening on the social media. On the social media front, if you actually Google search the motorway gang rape, okay, you will see the sentiments of the masses, because they're calling for a very firm investigation. They are calling for heads to roll in terms of accountability, and they're calling for the sternest of punishments to be meted out to those who are found guilty of this heinous crime. Now, I only hope that justice is meted out, because a lot of times in these kind of incidences, what we find is that there are scapegoats and other criminals brought along to divert the attention and to pacify the masses, to say, hey, we've found the culprits and look what we've done. Anyway, all right, we're going towards the end of the first half an hour. We're going to go towards the commercial break in a couple of seconds, inshallah. When we come back, we've got a number of stories in the next half an hour. We're going to be covering some local stories also, in addition to some positive. In fact, all three stories, I'm glad to say, I'm very happy to say, are all positive stories, right? At Friday Night Live, we try to ensure that we can cover as many positive stories as possible. And subhanAllah, the nature of news is at the moment, in the current climate, is that there's not many positive stories that you find. Most news seems to be very, very negative news. Anyway, when we come back, we will be covering a couple of positive stories in the next half an hour. Don't go away. 01582 481 822 0779 481 822 is the number for your messages. Do get involved. Until we come back. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Assalamu alaikum, my name's Sabah Chowdhury. I'm a producer and presenter at British Muslim TV. Do check out our show, Women Like Us. We're out there changing and leading the narrative surrounding Muslims and Muslim women. We're on Sky 845 across social media as well, using the hashtag Women Like Us. Also, do please continue listening to Inspire FM. They're on 105.1.
Looking for a law firm that doesn't treat you like you're just any client and charge you excessive fees? At MB Solicitors, we're not just interested in your case, we're interested in you. Our lawyers work to get you the right result with personal injury, immigration, family, and civil litigation services. At MB Solicitors, we won't treat you like a client, we'll treat you like the client. So call Luton 415-836 or visit mbsolicitors.com to arrange your free consultation today.
Lee Grade Heating Supplies. With over 20 years of experience, we're the largest independent plumbers merchant in the area, specialising in all types of plumbing and heating, as well as combination boilers and megaflow cylinders. Whether you need a new bathroom or a complete new heating system, LHS is the place. Come along to our brand new bathroom showroom at Unit 1, 3 Chorlend Lane, Luton, to see the latest range of quality bathrooms. Or log on to leegrave.net. We're an Interpart-approved stockist for all genuine spares. Our new store in Bedford is now also fully opened. Lee Grade Heating Supplies. Call Luton 84 86 88.
The law around organ donation in England has now changed, but you are still free to register your decision. Organ donation remains your choice. You can choose whether to opt in or out of becoming an organ and tissue donor. Whatever you decide, please register your decision and tell your friends and family. Find out more at organdonation.nhs.uk.
Get ready to study English at the University of Bedfordshire with specialist courses available in English language, literature and teaching English as a foreign language. Benefit from a course that prepares you for a wide range of careers with the opportunity to undertake an optional year in industry as part of your degree. You could be eligible for a generous scholarship or bursary too. Get ready to study at your local university. Apply now at beds.ac.uk.
I wash my hands to protect my family.
I wear a face covering to protect my mates.
I make space to protect my colleagues. Hands.
Face.
Space.
I wash my hands to protect strangers.
I wear a face covering to protect other passengers.
I make space to protect you.
Hands.
Face.
Space. As we spend more time indoors, we need to do whatever we can to help protect each other from coronavirus. So please, wash hands, cover face, make space.
Over 1 million people in Syria have recently been forced to flee their homes, living in mountains, under trees, and on the streets. The sky as their roofs and bare ground as their carpet. With nowhere to go, they need your urgent assistance. Crisis Aid is responding to their needs now. Please donate and save lives now. Call 01582 211 066 or visit our website www.crisisaid.org.uk.
Death
from which you are running from will certainly catch up with you. Then you will be returned to the knower of the unseen and the visible, and he will inform you of what you did. Quran, Surah 62, Ayah 8.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 6:30.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Friday Night Live with me, Hafiz Shaban, on this Friday, the 18th of September, corresponding to the 1st of Safar, second month in the Islamic calendar. Welcome back to the good old people of Luton and surrounding areas. We are broadcasting live, of course, on 105.1 FM, and we are, of course, continue to broadcast from our makeshift live studios from home, inshallah. 01582481822, 01582481822, 07779481822 is the number here in the studio. We are going to be continuing with the show next half an hour, inshallah. We've got a number of positive stories, as I was saying earlier, to cover in the next half an hour. 3 stories to cover in 25 minutes approximately, inshallah. So let me see if I can do that. But all positive, and that's the good news, right? And inshallah, 01582481822 or 07779481822 to show your appreciation, your thoughts with regards to any of these positive stories, right? And a reminder, when we do come back at 7 o'clock on the hour, we are going to be discussing the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Israel, and the US brokered peace deal, right? And I want to get your comments on that because I've got a number of experts that I'm going to be discussing with. I'm going to be dissecting the facts, inshallah, to find out what's happening and who is who. Anyway, let's go on to the first story. And the first story is about the UK Muslim channel Huda TV, winning its libel battle against the Henry Jackson Society, right? So this is a story that broke earlier this week. And this is a very important story because why? Because many mainstream Muslim media channels, platforms, publications, organizations, jama'as, etc., are many times defamed, right? They are, they are insulted. They are, accusations are made against them, and very rarely do they have the ability, the financial clout, the legal clout to be able to go and demand justice through a legal process, through the legal system, for some of these, preposterous, allegations that are made against some of these organizations. Now, this is precisely what happened when it comes to the UK Muslim channel Huda TV, and it managed to actually take its case to the courts, and it has won its libel battle against the Henry Jackson Society, but not without going, taking a legal case, right? A legal case in the High Court that has spanned almost 2 years, and you exactly understand what I mean when I talk about the strain that this actually causes, upon organizations, upon individuals when you try to seek, justice through the British legal system. But anyway, all right, let me just read that because we tried to reach out to Huda TV for comments, but unfortunately they were not available for comments, and they preferred that they referred us to their website and the press release, and we'll just cover some of it because I think it's very important to cover a positive story. So anyway, the Henry Jackson Society, I'll tell you who the Henry Jackson Society are in a short while. It has agreed to pay libel damages to Huda Television Limited, right? And in addition to covering legal costs during the High Court case that spanned almost 2 years, the Henry Jackson Society has also published a retraction of the allegations and have apologized to Huda on their website and on Twitter, right? So critics have called the report published by the Henry Jackson Society. So they basically produced a report. They published a report, and in that report, they repeated typical myths, typical stereotypes, and other statements about the threat of Muslims in the UK. This was no doubt designed to compensate for the lack of statistical significance, academic rigor, and general basis in empirical reality. And this is the typical kind of thing that we're seeing when it comes to a lot of these, or some of these, hostile right-wing organizations making such allegations against, as I said, a lot of Muslim media organizations, media platforms, social media platforms, and even religious stroke political organizations. And this is it's a good result. And alhamdulillah, you know what? It was a long journey. Jamil Rashid, director of Huda, spoke of the mental stress, the mental distress suffered by him and the workers at the television station since the report was published in 2018. For 2 years, they've had to, go along this huge battle, right, to get justice. And even when the justice is, when you get justice, it's not quite the same, is it? Dr. Salman Butt, the chief editor of Islam 21C, said, "This is the modus operandi of those that feed off ancient racist stereotypes, lies, and mythology, use the ill-gotten privileged platforms to stir up hatred and panic amongst the foolish, and then they quietly retract it when the truth catches up." Now, isn't that true? And haven't we seen that many, many times again? So you blast, right? Whatever statements you want to make, you blast up that hatred, that panic on front page headlines, massive headlines with imagery, right? That sticks and is not gonna go away. And then you issue a quiet apology. You retract your headlines and you issue a small apology, somewhere in the middle of your print, right? The ancient saying, "A lie is halfway around the world before the truth has its boots on," is only magnified by the fact that the fake news spreads 6 times as quickly than accurate news in today's social media world. Okay, so subhanAllah, that's a positive story that we wanted to cover, and that's with regards to UK Muslim channel Huda TV wins libel battle against the Henry Jackson Society. And I hope a lot of other organizations actually take encouragement and are able to muster the kind of clout, the kind of legal expertise, the financial support that is needed to actually try to get justice, right? But it's not easy, it's not simple, and it's going to be far and few between that are going to be able to actually take that journey because of the difficulty and because of the resources that that it requires. Anyway, so that was the first story. Inshallah, we're going to be moving on to the next story very, very shortly. Right, so next story, inshallah, that we're going to be covering, I think in about 2 minutes' time, I can introduce it, and then we can go straight to the guest when the guest arrives, inshallah, very, very shortly. And that is, all right, so that's a good idea. So if there's any of the positive stories that our listeners are familiar with, then, do share those with us. Do share those with us. It's very, very important that we try to get, as maximum, try to get maximum coverage for some of those positive stories, that don't necessarily don't necessarily attract the media's attention, right? So we've got a fantastic platform here, and we are able to at least do some justice. And make such call outs, because I think these call outs are very, very important, so that we can also cover some positive stories in the world, which is dominated by all of this negativity. But anyway, inshallah ta'ala, we have got a couple of other positive stories that we're going to be covering. We are going to be discussing the next story, and the next story is with regards to an award that has been achieved. Okay, that has been an award for an outstanding teacher that has been given to Nicola, right? Nicola, who is the assistant head teacher at Choney Girls High School. Choney Girls High School. So we're going to be actually joined by Nicola very, very soon, which is fantastic. Just for your information, this award, in fact, over 3,000. Okay, so let me go back here. Nicola was nominated by a head teacher, Joe Miles, for the Teacher of the Year in a secondary school category in the prestigious Pearson Teaching Awards, which is a national award. And I'm told, right, that the Pearson National Teaching Awards are the Oscars of the teaching profession. I like that analogy. It really sticks with me. But I think we got Nicola now. Hi, Nicola. Thank you for joining us on Friday Night Live.
Hi, how are you? Nice to be here this evening.
Yeah, fantastic. Not too bad. Enjoying the last of the fantastic, lovely hot weather days before autumn kicks in. How are you?
Absolutely. Very well, thank you.
Excellent. So, Nicola, tell us more about this award that you've managed to bag.
Yeah, it's obviously a huge achievement for myself and the school. Yeah. I was nominated by my head teacher way back. I think it was around March time that she actually did the nomination. So over the sort of lockdown period, I was informed that I had been nominated for the award, and then very shortly after that, I found out that I was actually shortlisted to the last 10 in the whole country. So it's pretty overwhelming, pretty astonishing that this has happened to me, and I suppose I never really dreamt that something like this would ever happen. So feeling quite overwhelmed and humbled by the whole thing currently, as you can imagine. So
yeah, fantastic. So first and foremost, congratulations from the team at Inspire FM. When we saw that story, we thought we definitely need to cover it, because it's great to cover these kind of positive stories in especially in the current climate of a lot of negative stories. The fact that over 3,000 applications, I mean, that's quite an incredible number, isn't it? 3,000 applications and then being shortlisted for the last 10. I can definitely imagine you, quite frankly, being over the moon with just being shortlisted, never mind actually making it, even through that.
Yeah, I think I felt pretty, special being nominated, and then shortlisted alone was icing on the cake already. But then this week, my colleagues absolutely tricked me, hid it from me, kept it all secret. And we had sort of a little ceremony in school on Wednesday evening, which how they managed to keep it from me, I have to take my hat off and say you did a good job, because normally I kind of know everything that's going on in there. So the delight and the sort of shock, I guess, that I experienced on Wednesday was something that I will probably bottle up and never let go of, because it's one of these things that you just need to always remember. And I think, when we all have bad days and things, those moments will come back to me. And I'll always remember the support that my colleagues and the students and the community have shown me, because obviously people are aware of the nomination and so on, but the support has been phenomenal from everybody in the community, and from our girls especially, and families.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Fantastic. No, that's brilliant. I mean, the fact is, we got to celebrate. It's fantastic news, great achievement, and I've always had the highest of regards and respects for teachers out of all professions. I mean, the contribution to society, the contribution to our generations, that are to come. All of us, couldn't have got where we are, without having that dedication of the teachers, right? Who get us across that line. Some of us, might be, quite committed students, but a lot of us are not. And it really requires that extra effort and patience and perseverance from our teachers. And I know I was quite demanding of my teachers, that ultimately, guides us through that. And wow, you've been teaching for last 18 years at that school? And
yeah, this is 19 years I've been at Chorley Girls this year. Started there as a newly qualified teacher, and obviously people know me well enough to say I'm definitely part of the furniture at this stage. Wow. But my passion is just seeing all girls flourish and go off to be, you're probably aware of our sort of mission statement, and that is to develop influential women of the future. And actually that's something that I'm really passionate about as an individual, but as a school, everybody has that vision for our girls, and that's what I'm driven by. So I think I never entered the profession to get recognition of any kind. I entered the profession because students and young people are at the core of what I do, and watching them blossom and grow and develop for me is why I entered the profession. So I guess the recognition of it now just brings it home as to you don't realize the impact you have on young people all the time. And I think I didn't need an award to recognize that, but I think it's just made me really reflect on, I have been doing it for 19 years. I have been in the same school for 19 years for a reason. And it's just nice to actually have the recognition of that. And and it's fantastic for the school, and actually our school and our community deserve it as well, as much as people might say I do. So I said to my colleagues on Wednesday, this award for me is for our girls predominantly, our families, our community, and our school. And it's not just about me. It's a joint, collective, collaborative approach.
Fantastic. No, I completely echo and concur with your statement. I mean, Shawnee, we've had Shawnee High School for girls on the station for, on a number of occasions in the recent weeks, for recent months, for a number of achievements, and it's all fantastic. Great news to see all of that synergy, all of the effort, all of that coordination and professionalism coming together to really produce fantastic results, and it's a great effort. But I mean, a last quick comment is that the teaching career, the teaching profession has always been under a lot of constraints, and then under a lot of pressure. There's always been a question of resourcing around teaching, and it's not the most easiest of professions, is it? It's a very challenging profession, but also at the same time, I'm gonna say it is a very rewarding, at least ethically, morally, a very, very rewarding, an experience. I mean, I work in finance, and I'm telling you, it's not as rewarding, and when it comes to actually in terms of a profession. But what is it that drives your passion as a teacher? What is it that gets you up on the morning, and and for the last 19 years, and what makes you makes you full of energy, ready to go and commit another day, not just at work, but with that passion and that level that has been recognized?
I guess what I'd say is that I absolutely thrive on just watching young people develop into the people that they deserve to be. And I think with regards to getting up in the morning, I get up every morning because I love doing what I do, and I love watching the journey that our students go on and our girls go on. And for me, what it is you don't always realize the impact that you have on every single individual, but in some shape or form, teachers should know, and every teacher has an impact on every single child. And I think for me, that's what drives me. And actually, one of the things that I'm sort of most proud of is when you see, we've got an alumni, so we have lots of our ex-Chorley girls come back to visit and so on. And one of the things that is really rewarding is when you see the student that may have been a little bit more challenging in her time with us, but you always saw the potential that they had. And I think that's the key thing for me, is that you see the potential that every single child has, and you develop and you grow that potential, and you watch them fly and flourish into the futures that they go on to have. So for me, it's just watching young people flourish and develop into fantastic individuals who can be who they want to be.
Fantastic, great broadcast and advertisement for the teaching career and for the teaching industry. So you would definitely recommend to any of our listeners who are potentially considering a career, perhaps just going on to university and not sure about careers. So it's definitely something that you would recommend to any of our listeners who are perhaps considering teaching as a career.
Absolutely. I mean, it's I'm not going to lie, we all know it's challenging, it's hard work, but you reap the rewards of it. So, if it's something you're interested in, go and have the experience of it. I've never looked back, and I never will look back. So for me, it is a fantastically rewarding career. And the difference you can make to people is you can't buy it, and you'll never have it anywhere else.
All right, fantastic. On that note, unfortunately, we've run out of time, Nicola. Thank you very much. Well done for that award, and may you be nominated for many more to come in the future years.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on. And just wanted to sort of say thank you to colleagues, students, families, and the wonderful community for the support they've shown me, and for the process as well. It's been astoundingly phenomenal for me. So thank you very much for having me on this evening as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, listeners, that was Nicola from Chorley Girls High School, who has been nominated for what I was describing earlier, and which has been actually described as the Oscars for the teaching profession, and that's the Pearson National Teaching Awards. And of course, out of 3,000 applications being shortlisted and making it to the final 10 in the country, and then was presented with her silver award. And apparently she's now running for the gold award and is one of only 76 winners across all categories in the UK. Fantastic achievement, fantastic result. And Shawnee Girls High School makes the headlines for yet another reason. Fantastic, another positive reason. Great news, right? As I said, we are going to be covering a number of positive stories. The last story that we're going to be covering is the community awards, and I believe we're going to be speaking to Amy Clark. Right? Let me see if I can see Amy Clark. Amy, hi.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to Friday Night Live. Great to have you with us. Great. So, Amy, we're going to be discussing community awards. I understand you're, of course, the community awards organizer and director of community interest Luton. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Fantastic. So, I was given the link to the community awards earlier. This year, the community awards might be slightly different from previous years for the obvious, a reason of COVID-19. Is it still pressing ahead? Then is it this year?
Yeah, I mean, normally we would launch in April, run our nominations and then have our actual event in October where we have over 600 people attend. But obviously with everything that's gone on this year, we kind of put a pause on it and, was thinking, is it going to go ahead? Is it not? So we've decided to, get nominations in and go live with it. And just continue listening to the government guidelines, whether, something goes ahead and it's a virtual event or, if we can have a small, maybe over a 2-3 day period, or we push it to next year. It's just something we're kind of monitoring as and when we go on.
Okay, fantastic. And in terms of, you said the nominations have already started, have they?
Yeah, so nominations are now open. People can nominate on our website. We've got 4 new categories for this year based around kind of the COVID crisis that's gone on. They're new, we've taken some out and we've added some new ones in just to recognise, people that have gone above and beyond in the crisis.
Right. So for our listeners, some of our listeners might not be familiar with the community awards. I mean, it does sound a bit obvious in terms of what the community awards are and probably what the intention is there. But just give a quick introduction to the community awards and what the background to it, history to it is, and what is it that it aims to celebrate and recognise.
So the community awards have been running for the last 10 years. This is our 11th year. We have a various amount of categories, from Young Hero to Charity of the Year, Community Business of the Year. We've got our new ones, Stand Up and Step Out, Response Team Champions. We've got various different categories. We have a variety of judges who will judge the nominations once they come in, and we kind of recognise the unsung heroes within our community who go above and beyond in various different sectors, whether they work for a business or a charity or, it's just your friendly neighbour. It recognises everybody and all the great things that they do.
Fantastic. Sounds brilliant. I think we definitely need more of that, which is great. How many categories are there?
So we've got 20. So we've got quite a lot of categories, but they kind of cover kind of everything and anything, from young people to, people who have been in sectors for 20-30 years, fundraisers, everyone and anyone basically.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. Sounds good. And is it like your BAFTA and is it as glamorous as your BAFTA and your Oscars? With the spotlight as you walk down and come to receive your award, is it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a brilliant night. It brings together everyone from all backgrounds, all business sectors. Just everyone comes together on the night, and it's as much as you're recognizing people, the winners, it's also the runners up that are recognized, and we can't do it without our sponsors as well, so they're a massive asset.
Well, if you need a host for this year's ceremony, or an assistant host, then I'm going to make myself available. You've convinced me, right? But is it going to be different than this year? It's not going to be the same kind of glamour and same kind of event where you probably got hundreds that are turning up, right, to the traditional event. You're probably not going to plan for something like that, right? I understand.
It won't be anything like that.
Right.
Obviously, we kind of normally do have over 600 people attend, and even when we limit ourselves on say 600, we still get people on the day that want to come, but it's just the capacity. You can't, but obviously with everything that's going on, we can't have 600 people attend, so it will be very, very different this year, but it be hopefully something unique that happens still.
And very quickly, I'm getting some messages here. Are the nominations still open? Can the masses, can the community, anyone from the community nominate anyone for a particular category? Very quickly, I've got about 20 seconds left.
Yeah, anyone can nominate. Nominations are still open, and they will continue running open. And then we'll put a message up on our Facebook pages, when a deadline.
When the nominations close?
We haven't secured a deadline yet, obviously due to everything going on. So, keep an eye out.
Are pretty much open, chaps, listeners. If you want to nominate me, then feel free to nominate me or anyone else in the community. Community Awards, Amy. Thank you very much for your time on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Great. Okay, listen, that was Amy. Those were the community awards. Quick introduction to community awards. Nominations are open, so please feel free to nominate your unsung hero in the community. We're about to go into commercial break. When we come back, we're discussing politics, and we're discussing some serious politics with some serious experts. Don't go away until we come back from the commercial break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
आजकल लोग सड़कों पर चलते फिरते चोरी के मोबाइल फोन, लैपटॉप, कैमरा और इस तरह की मुख्तलिफ चीजें फरोख्त करते हैं। चोरी की चीजें खरीदने का मतलब आप इस चोरी में शामिल हैं, इसलिए चलते फिरते लोगों से चीजें हरगिज ना खरीदें, बल्कि ऐसे अफराद के बारे में पुलिस को आगाह करें। इंस्पायर एफएम कम्युनिटी अवेयरनेस मैसेज।
Biscard Pharmacy, your one-stop health and beauty pharmacy in Luton, stockist of over 8,000 health and beauty products. At Biscard Pharmacy, we offer a range of services, including health advice and repeat prescriptions for collection and delivery to your home. We also offer a Hajj and Umrah vaccination. Come in and see us and ask about our stop smoking service. We're open 7 days a week till late, including bank holidays. Biscard Pharmacy, 157A Biscard Road, Luton. Call 457709.
Why do Tops Pizza deliver the top pizzas in Luton? For a start, all the toppings are 100% halal, and Tops use fresh dough every day. Then there's the cheese, the highest quality available. And when it comes to food preparation, cleanliness is taken as part of our faith. So that just leaves the taste, choice, and great offers, including buy one, get one free on all medium, large, and extra large pizzas. Tops Pizzas, Wellington Street, LU1 5AA. Order online, topspizza.com or via Just Eat. Download our app or call 01582 72 5000.
Get ready to study child and adolescent studies at the University of Bedfordshire. Explore areas such as education, social, youth and community work, and how you can make a positive impact within your community. Benefit from staff at the forefront of research and modern learning environments. You could be eligible for a generous scholarship or bursary too. Get ready to make a difference. Apply now at beds.ac.uk.
Change of plans? Realise your ambition at Barnfield College. Drop into our New Bedford Road and Enterprise Way campuses Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to get advice and guidance about your options. At Barnfield College, you'll discover your strengths, unlock opportunities, and achieve your goals without delay. Learning on campus from expert tutors using the latest kit and equipment, you'll be well set for a place at university, an apprenticeship, or great first job. Explore our courses at barnfield.ac.uk and secure your place on campus.
For the last 10 years, SKT Welfare, with your support, has helped millions of people who are suffering due to lack of food, shelter, water, and medical care in Pakistan, Syria, Africa, Yemen, Palestine, and Bangladesh for Rohingya refugees. Thank you. Without your support, we could not have achieved this. Please continue to help. Donate now. 0300 30 20 786 or www.sktwelfare.org. Just 85 pence a day could provide vital food.
Are you an avid bookworm? Or maybe you love books but just struggle to find the time to read? Then you need to tune into the Book Club Show on Inspire FM with Sister Imrana, where we'll be discussing a fab selection of books with special studio guests. Join us every Tuesday morning from 10 till 11 to inspire imagination and rekindle your love for reading. Don't forget the Book Club Show every Tuesday morning 10 till 11 on your very own Inspire 105.1 FM. From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 7 o'clock.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to Friday Night Live with me, Hafiz Shaban, on this Friday, the 18th of September, corresponding to the 1st of Safar. We are, of course, broadcasting live on the Luton on 105.1 FM and nationally via our sister stations and, of course, other social media platforms. 01582 481 822 0779 481 822 for your social media messages. And Jazakallah khair for all of you who have got involved in tonight's conversation, tonight's discussion. And also thank you for those of you that have, of course, liked us on the Facebook page, right? So if you are on the social media platform, then please do go on to our Facebook page and do like us and do share our broadcast, our transmission, right? So inshallah, we are in the second hour of the show, second half of the show. First hour has gone by very, very quickly. Just a reminder, we're gonna go for the Maghrib Azan at about 7:13. All right, so we've got about 10 minutes to kickstart the next conversation. And the next discussion is a very serious conversation. It's a political conversation. We're going international. We're going Palestine. We're going United Arab Emirates. We're going Bahrain. We're going Israel, and we're going America, right? So those of you that follow politics, you may have seen the news this week. You've probably seen the news over the last couple of weeks, but this week specifically on Tuesday was when, of course, the United States of America, led by Donald Trump, hosted a ceremony in the White House. UAE, Bahrain agreed to normalize ties, right, with Israel. The age-old enemy has become a friend for the UAE and Bahrain, which suggests to me, why was it an enemy once upon a time if it's now become friends? What has changed, right? Anyway, at the US brokered event, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the Emirati Foreign Minister Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Now he seemed very confused. Apparently he didn't know what he was signing. I don't know. Maybe he's just signed on the dotted line, not realizing what he's just signed. But he looked very confused from the videos that I have seen. And we had the Bahrain's Foreign Minister Abdul Latif Al Zayani all there signing on the dotted line. Of course, this has happened before. We've seen the PLO sign a similar agreement or maybe slightly different agreement. We've seen Egypt. We've seen Jordan. So this is the third and the fourth Arab states, right, that have taken such steps to normalize ties. Now, I'm not the expert. The experts hopefully have joined. Let me see if they have joined. Yep, they have. Brother Dr. Anas Takriti, assalamu alaikum. And Jazakallah khair for joining us on Friday Night Live this evening.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. It's a pleasure being with you.
Pleasure to see you live. Okay, so Anas, tell us more about this agreement, right? I mean, you know, the Netanyahu said this peace will eventually expand to include other Arab states, and ultimately it can end the Arab-Israeli conflict once and for all, right? And the White House described it as a declaration of peace. Now, when the White House, Donald Trump declares something on Netanyahu, I really take it with a pinch of salt. Tell me, is this something, a recipe for achieving peace in the region?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, you can look at this from various perspectives. Let me start with the Israeli perspective and Netanyahu's declaration that this will bring about peace. What he fails to observe is that he might sign as many normalization agreements or accords with as many Arab countries or even Muslim countries beyond the Arab world as he might wish. But his actual problem is with the Palestinian people. And the fact is that for the past 72 years, the only nation that he has utterly failed, and Israel has utterly failed to occupy, is the Palestinian people. So regardless of how many peace accords he might sign with various Arab regimes, and not Arab people, I might say, but Arab regimes, that won't really change the dynamics of what's happening within Palestine itself. That's one thing. The other thing is that from those countries' point of view, the significance of this is that essentially these regimes have now declared what for decades these regimes have been doing under the table and behind closed doors. Everyone knew that there was a more or less normal relationship going on between most Arab regimes and their Israeli counterparts. Most people know that the Arab regimes have long sold Palestine down the river, and that the usage of Palestine was merely for public consumption, for rhetoric, and to garner more popular support from their own people because of their declared stand in support of the Palestinian cause. So what has changed now in reality is that these regimes have now moved from doing business secretly with Israel to doing it openly. But I would end this particular question or this particular answer with one very important observation, and that is that these regimes, the UAE and Bahrain, and they might be followed by Saudi Arabia, by Oman, by Morocco, by various other countries. I wouldn't be astonished or surprised if that's happened. They are doing deals with Netanyahu, who is embattled within Israel and about to lose his position. In fact, about to lose his position.
So, Anas, let's come on to some of the other factors, right? But let me also introduce now, Professor. Let me just get this right. Professor Kamal Hawash, right, who's the British Palestinian engineering academic based at the University of Birmingham and also a writer for Middle East Eye. And we've had Professor Kamal on the show, several times. Thank you very much, Professor Kamal, for joining us. My question to Anas was, is this going to achieve peace? So Anas, in Anas's opinion, I don't think it's going to achieve peace because the main components of peace are the Palestinian people, and the Palestinian people are not even involved in any of these conversations on any of these negotiations, right? But my question to you, Professor Kamal, is that what the UAE and Bahrain have done, I mean, Egypt and Jordan have done this many, many years ago. So what's the big difference now that the Gulf states are slowly beginning to accept and come out openly with what's already been happening behind closed doors for many, many years?
Assalamu alaikum, first of all, and greetings to you and to your listeners and to your guests. There is a difference in that they are not neighboring countries. So Egypt and Jordan actually had borders with Israel. Israel had occupied Jordanian and Egyptian land. So there was a reason for them, as they saw it, to have peace deals with Israel, whereby they signed peace deals that returned land to them, and, if you like, normalized the relationships between Egypt, Jordan, and Israel. Here we have had, there are two agreements now with Arab countries in the Gulf that have not been at war with Israel. Neither of them had fired one bullet in the direction of Israel in the past. And in fact, Bahrain particularly is such a small country that from the point of view of economic development and trade is and with the greatest respect to it, because the Bahraini people are wonderful. But Israel isn't exactly going to expand its exports to Bahrain in a way that legitimizes or adds value. When it comes to the United Arab Emirates, unfortunately, there's a different factor, which is that the United Arab Emirates, like Israel, is engaged in wars against other people. The United Arab Emirates is involved in Yemen, particularly, and also in Libya and in other countries, as Israel is in terms of not only occupying and bombing the Gaza and oppressing the Palestinians, it has engaged in attacks on Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon. So they seem to have some reason to cooperate, but I want to add this because that's really what they use as the reason, that they're all worried about Iran, and they believe that they need to align with Israel in order for the Israelis and the Americans to protect them.
Right.
they will not.
Right, Professor Kamal, we'll come on to the Iranian threat shortly, but just a reminder, we're going to go for Maghrib Azan at 9:13, so we've got about 3 minutes remaining before the Maghrib Azan. I mean, I want to go back to Anas. Anas, I mean, the point here is, right, based upon Professor Kamal's answer, if Israel and the UAE, Bahrain have not fired or not been at war with one another, then the question would be, then why on earth were they enemies of one another, and why did they not have any diplomatic or any relationships? Surely they should have had that many years ago, right? So what's really the key thing that is changing? I'm trying to get through here, right? Because it's not peace that is being discussed here. There's a bigger game that's at play here. What is that?
Well, it's clearly a normalization of relationships. It's basically dealing with Israel as though it was dealing with a neighboring country. It's eliminating and eradicating decades, generations of Israeli occupation and the grave, gross injustices committed and perpetrated against the Palestinian people. Countless UN resolutions condemning Israel, eradicating all of that and normalizing relationships. Now, they would proclaim that this is in order to strengthen the axis against Iran. But the reality belies that. So the fact.
Let's go to Iran after the Maghrib Azan, Anas. Let's come back to Iran after the Maghrib Azan because we don't have enough time right now. But Professor Kamal, right? So the Palestinian people and the Palestinian authorities, I mean, they've got their challenges in their own right, but have simply been sidelined in this whole process. Is that correct?
Yes, they have. And I mean, don't forget that Trump had a plan that is referred to as the deal of the century, which the Palestinians rejected. But they have just gone ahead and implemented quite a few aspects of it, including the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, moving the embassy there. And at that point, the Palestinians ended all contact with the Americans. So the Americans are also using that as a pretext to say the Palestinians need to come to the table and accept what we dictate to them. Otherwise, they're out of the game. We will not be talking to them.
Right. So we're going to go to the Maghrib Azan. So I'm just going to ask my guests to patiently please bear with us whilst we go for the Maghrib Azan. It's going to be a couple of minutes. So if you want to pray, you can probably pray during that break. Listeners, we are discussing the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Israel, peace, accords that have been signed recently, and then of course been celebrated in the United States of America. When we come back from the Maghrib Azan, we're also going to have brother Basharat Ali, who's a political commentator, TV host, and a khatib who has addressed this issue today. So we're going to be discussing that. I also want to discuss it from the perspective of the Iranian threat and the US elections and the Palestinian cause. Where do we go when it comes to the Palestinian cause if there is now a trend of normalization in all the other Gulf states? What happens to the Palestinian cause? Is the Iranian threat a genuine, real Iranian threat? Or is it an excuse that is used to sell more arms to the Gulf states? And how much of this is all about Donald Trump getting re-elected in the US election? So those are the questions when we come back from the commercial break. Not from the commercial break, sorry, from the Azan break. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
This Azan has been sponsored by Ideal Properties. Contact us on 01582 721110 or log on to www.idealpropertiesltd.co.uk.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
Would you like to sponsor the Azan? If so, give us a call on 01582 481810 or email us on info@inspirefm.org.
All right, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Friday Night Live with me, Hafiz Shaban. That was the Maghrib Azan. Hopefully, it is given enough time for my guests to pray and be back with me, because we were right in the middle and in the depth of a very, very important conversation, and that's around the current Abraham Accords that have been signed in the United States of America, which have been described as a declaration of peace, and we're trying to unravel what's been signed. Is it really a gesture of peace? Is it something that's going to really achieve peace when you haven't even involved the main components of the peace, which is the Palestinian and the Israelis? Let me go back straight to Brother Anas and Professor Kamal. Jazakallah khair. Thank you for your patience. A couple of things that I want to discuss. I'm not sure whether we got Basharat Ali also on the line. Basharat, can you hear me? Right. Can't hear me. So let's go straight to Anas. Anas, couple of things. We've got about 10 minutes before end of this segment. US elections, the Palestinian cause, and the bogeyman by the name of Iran, right? That is used to sell more arms to the region, right? I mean, all three are big areas, but I'm going to ask you to keep your comments very succinct, right? So we can try to answer this question. Firstly, US elections, right? I mean, how much of that is the main driver for this initiative that we're seeing, as opposed to the peace that we're being told that this is all about?
For President Trump, quite significant, because he wanted to do this and to stick it on his legacy before he, as polls indicate, is going to depart, whether willfully or otherwise, the White House this November. So basically, he was quite keen, him and his son-in-law, to get this deal through, so that basically he can claim something that no US president can claim before. And hence, the whole weakness in this whole facade. because the UAE and Bahrain and whatever other Arab governments are standing in queue in order to sign agreements with Israel, they are dealing with two embattled leaders. Netanyahu on one side, who's now escaping from a judicial process, which might actually kick him out of office, and Trump, who is likely to lose the next elections. Now, what will happen once both Netanyahu and Trump are out of office? Who will they deal with then? And upon what kind of terms or accords? The Israeli people by far have expressed opposition to this. In fact, Netanyahu is held in great disdain for this, because people are saying, listen, the problem is not in Abu Dhabi. The problem is not in Bahrain. The problem is here in Gaza. It's in the West Bank. It's throughout Palestine. This is where the problem is.
Right, but and surely still, despite that opposition story, it is a big political win for Netanyahu and Israel in terms of normalization, right? Let me go to Professor Kamal. Professor Kamal, right? The question I have for you is, all right, the Iranian bogeyman threat, right? Iran has been used for a very long time, and you know what? You know, even the most politically naive person knows that this is being used to just further economic interest for the Americans. Okay, now they're talking about selling these these fighter jets to the United Arab Emirates, right? And further arm deals. I mean, surely it's a no-brainer that this is all about further economic interest for the United States of America. Is Iran a real threat, or is it just an excuse? What's your thoughts on that?
I think realistically, Iran is involved in the Middle East in terms of, i.e., beyond its borders, and if it were in Iraq, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Yemen. So some of these countries are worried about Iran, moving into their territories. But you would have thought that the answer would be to go and talk to the Iranians, to try and find ways, because it's a Muslim country like them. The fact that they may follow a different sect in Islam is not the issue. So that all of them talk about dialogue, and they've had dialogue with Israel, but they never had dialogue with Iran.
Right. So
understand how they can overcome the misunderstanding. If there is a threat, how to reduce it.
Right. So, Professor Kamal, why is there no dialogue? Right. Sometimes you have this bully, right, or someone who's made out to be very dangerous, or don't talk to him, otherwise you'll end up in trouble. I mean, is it that kind of tactics, the street tactics that are being used by the Americans with the Gulf states to say don't talk to Iran, the Iranians, and they're a threat, and there's simply no dialogue between nations? What's driving that?
I think, first of all, the question that one needs to ask is the following: are they in control of their own decisions? Are they in control of their own decision making? And the answer, I'm afraid, and it hurts me as someone who was born. Actually, I was born in Saudi Arabia and knows the Gulf well, and so on. That the answer is no. So rather than come together, for example, as the Arab nations through the Arab League and show strength and support the Palestinians and say to Israel, you must change your way, they've allowed the Americans to pick them off one at a time, and the Israelis indeed to pick them off one at a time. So I think that is the fundamental problem, is they're not really in control of their own destiny, because the real proof is the timing. If the Emirates has been negotiating this for a while, fine. What about Bahrain? Suddenly, within 3 days of the Emirati signing, they were ready to send somebody to sign a deal in America. It shows you. And the question is who will be next, and how easy it will be to bring, for example, Oman on board. It seems fairly easy to do that.
Well, Netanyahu was in Oman not too long ago, so I don't think that's going to be a difficult thing. But let me go to our new guest, Brother Basharat Ali. Jazakallah khair for joining us, Brother Basharat. Of course, political commentator, TV host, and you have been commenting on, and your comments caught my attention on this subject matter recently. Brother Basharat, what do you make of this, right? And you pointed out, you highlighted a number of factors, but a couple of minutes. What are your thoughts on this issue?
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. جزاكم الله خير. بسم الله الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. In essence, we have to go to the beginning of this problem. Palestine became a part of the Islamic history and Aqidah long before concept of Israel or Arab states existed. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh liberated this land. And he famously said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored us who were a disgraced people. And should we seek honor or dignity from other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Islam, we will be humiliated.
No.
And so there was no talk of normalization with Sophronius and Byzantium. The Franks, the Europeans took it at the time of the Crusades. The ulama and the rulers and the warriors did not talk about normalization.
Right.
They talked about regaining it. And of course, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi did so. And then this concept of where we are today, you must go back 100 years to the treachery of two groups of people. One, Sharif Hussain of Makkah and his Imam and Sheikh and Mawla Imam T. Lawrence. And secondly, Anwar Pasha and Jamal Pasha and these Arab Turks who adopted a secular nationalism. That's how we arrive in the modern time situation of Palestine.
So you're Bashar, so you're saying
of,
it's sorry, Bashar. So you're just saying it's not just a Palestinian issue; it's a more of an Islamic issue, and that's the perspective that we need to look at it from. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying more than that. The way a Muslim looks at anything is from the Islamic perspective, or you adopt a secular perspective. Look, I respect people's opinions. If people have a secular premise, then what the Emiratis are doing is nothing wrong with it. What the Egyptians did, nothing wrong with them, because they worship their God, which is a nation state. To quote one of my favorite poems or poets, Iqbal, he commented upon this when the British were carving up the Muslim lands. He said, I'll leave you with this thought and then I'll see what the other contributors say to this. Iqbal famously said, he said, Kya Muslim ne ta'mir kiya haram? Has the Muslim built a new haram? He said, Tahzeeb ke azar ne tarishwa sanam aur. That the high priests of culture have created new sanam, asnam from the Arabic, idols. In taza khudaon mein sabse bada watan hai. In these new gods, idols, the biggest is a nation state. To conclude, the one who wears the clothing of this, the attire, is wearing the coffin of the deen, i.e., if you come from a secular perspective, you have no right to criticize the Emiratis, the Bahrainis, because they're protecting their national idolatrous interest.
Okay, Bashar, thank you very much for that comment. I want to. We've actually cut the commercial break, so we can continue for straight into the conversation. I don't want to stop it here. I mean, you lead me on to the most important point of this conversation, and that's the Palestinian cause itself. Right? I want to come to Anas, right, and let the other guests think about this issue, because we're discussing Bahrain and we're discussing the Gulf, we're discussing everyone but the Palestinians and the Palestinian issue itself. Basharat is trying to make it the issue wider, that it's not the Palestinian issue, it's the issue of Palestine, and the issue of Palestine is linked to the whole Muslim Ummah and the community. And I get that point where you're coming from. But we've got a number of challenges, Anas, when it comes to the Palestinian issue. Firstly, we've got an issue of the Palestinian groups themselves not being united, right? That give me an update where we are with that. Then we've got this concept of nation state, and if everyone looks at it from a nation state perspective, then I can see Basharat's point and the validity of that, because it becomes a national issue and not an international issue linked to the ideology or the belief of the Muslim Ummah, right? And then the third issue is, how do we, right, now that the normalization agenda is everyone signing up to it and subscribing to it, and it's only a matter of time before Saudi, Oman, and Pakistan, Malaysia, or all the other Muslim nations sign up to it, that means the Palestinian cause is almost a lost cause. What is the future for the Palestinian cause, and how do we address that, and it's from your perspective?
That's a lot of questions for a couple of minutes, but I'll try to be very succinct. The first is commenting on what Basharat said. Even from a national interest point of view, Brother Basharat, the UAE and Bahrain have gone down what we call political suicide. It's not just because they're Arab countries. It's not just because they're Muslim countries. They have achieved nothing of their national interest. So even if they were actually achieving national interest, then you'd find an excuse maybe. But what they have done is to actually commit political strategic suicide. So that's one point of view. The second is, I'd like to argue, because one thing that we haven't mentioned, this particular agreement was rushed because there is an international will in order to oppose Turkish expansion, especially in the eastern part of the Mediterranean and Northern Africa. The access now that is building against Turkish influence and expansion includes France, includes various European partners, as well as obviously Israel and several Arab countries who stand opposed to what we call the Turkish-Qatari so-called Iranian axis. So this is one point of view. Now you ask a very important question, Bisharat. The Palestinian cause has been ignited and has been never on the wane for now 72 years. Children who are 2 years old who have never ever seen Palestine proper are now burning for Palestine. The Palestinian cause is not for the UAE government to sign on a dotted line and then end, or even further Arab countries. That's not how you end an issue as grave, as serious, as long-standing as the Palestinian cause. And hence, those who even oppose it from within Israel, they realize that this charade that took place is nothing more than a circus. It won't impact people's lives. And the Palestinians realize no one can negotiate on their rights. No one can negotiate on their homes, on their lands, on their inalienable human rights. Therefore, the Palestinian struggle, believe you me, inshallah, I hope that we will see the end of justly in our lifetimes. But if not, if Allah wishes for it to go on, it will be our children who will be having this discussion in the future, inshallah.
Okay, so Professor Kamal, let me ask you this question, right? The whole idea of this normalization is that one country at a time, everyone normalizes, signs up to these accords, peace accords with Israel, acknowledges, recognizes Israel. Eventually, the Palestinians will be left by themselves. That's the whole idea. They will be left alone, right? Everyone else is normalized. They will be forced into a corner, and they will have to compromise on all of all of the areas that they've tried to hold on to, which fundamentally gives them a very, very little political clout. And eventually, they're just going to be pressurized by the Gulf states, plus the political factors, and they're going to be ending up in a very, very weak position. That's the political dilemma that the Palestinians face.
But I can tell you as a Palestinian that that hasn't stopped the Palestinians from calling for their rights for 72 years. Okay, so this is an ongoing struggle, and as Dr. Anas said, it may not be solved in our lifetime, but the next generation is prepared to take the baton over. Since COVID started, I've been following lots of webinars of Palestinians speaking from across the whole world, from the youngest you can think of to the oldest you can think of, and they're all united in saying, first of all, we need the Palestinian leadership to come together to end the division, to be strong, and that's beginning. There are some reasonable signs that is happening.
Right.
They will not give up on their rights. Their rights are enshrined not only in international law, but they are inalienable rights. The right to self-determination, the right for the refugees to return. So they will continue. The Palestinians will continue to fight for that. And let's be clear: for as long as there are something like 6 to 7 million Palestinians on their land still inside Israel, in the West Bank, in Jerusalem and in Gaza, that is the dilemma that the Israelis have, that they can't solve this by signing a deal with the United Arab Emirates.
Right.
What the Palestinians are doing now is that there is a much greater move for them to be united. They will not give up on their rights. And I'm afraid, if you know how the Palestinians in Gaza live, you will know that they're poor. They don't have electricity, but they haven't given up, and they still want to return to their homes.
Right, Professor Kamal. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I just need to give a minute to Bashar. Bashar, you have to be very succinct and precise because we've got guests waiting for the next discussion. We could have continued for an hour on this topic, but Bashar, your concluding comments, if you may.
Okay, with regard to Dr. Anas, Qatar has had a relationship with Israel since '96. Ehud Barak met Athani. Do not please portray the Qataris. I know you're not doing it deliberately as some sort of salvation or savior. They're as treacherous as the other Arab rulers. And Professor Kamal is quite right. The Palestinian young boys look at the settlements and say they're being built for us, because their iman and the aqidah that land will be our land is correct. And as for the Turkey, Turkey recognized Israel in 1949. It is still it trades, I think, 2 or 3 billion a year. Now, to conclude this issue, Israel is not the only illegitimate occupying state. The Emiratis are illegitimate state, so is Egypt, so is Syria. These are all the illegitimate children of Sykes-Picot and Balfour, and the Arab League was created to do the dirty work of the colonialists after they left. America muscled in after 1953 onwards, and the conclusion from me is this. Do not look at this as a Palestinian problem. I'm from Kashmir, and I don't look at it as a Kashmiri problem. Nationalism is a rotten, filthy concept, and it has no place in Islam and any Islamic discussion. And that is my perspective. We look at this from the pristine values of Islam alone.
Right, Basharat Ali, Dr. Anas Takriti, and Dr. Kamal. Unfortunately, I've got to leave it there. I know everyone wants to continue this discussion, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This evening. Thank you very much. Okay, listeners, that was quite a heated conversation and discussion on the Palestinian issue. Of course, it always generates a lot of passion, emotion, sentiments, and rightly so. Thank you very much for all three contributors. And unfortunately, I've had to cut you. I know you all wanted to continue the conversation for a lot longer. Anyway, we need to move on. And we are going to move on to our next story because I'm already overrunning. Producers have been reminding me. Apologies, team. But I couldn't just stop that conversation. It was just too passionate to stop it midway. All right, so we're going to move on to the next story. Next story, all right, I mean, it's a COVID update. COVID update, unfortunately, you know, it's not going away. I would have loved to not be discussing this topic. But the reality is we're going to have a quick update. Because it's still here, and as you would have seen from the headlines, you know, let me just go to my BBC page, and you will see straight away COVID cases on the increase. You know, second wave of COVID-19 now hitting UK, says Prime Minister, right? And that's the reality of what we're seeing around us, and we're seeing new restrictions coming in. We're seeing lockdown measures going in. And of course, we're seeing it up and down the country, right? So we've got a couple of guests. I've got Lucy Huber, Deputy Director of Public something. Again, you know, it would have been good if I would have got the full introduction. I'm going to say, is it Public Affairs?
Public Health.
Public Health. There we go. All right, producer, you need to give me the full bios and introductions here. And we've got Aslam Khan Saab, portfolio holder for Children's Services, Enhancing Skills in Education. Aslam Saab, welcome back to Friday Night Live. Great to see you again.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for having me again.
Right, thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to go straight to Lucy first because, of course, we know that the figures are going back up again. Of course, it means that we gotta be alert. We gotta, you know, follow all the national guidelines. Of course, it's getting a bit confusing, I must admit, as an individual. But I wanna discuss it from a local perspective because obviously there's been a number of stories around schools, you know, this week, right? So there's been a lot happening, and then I've also heard with regards to, you know, the COVID officers, right? Compliance officers visiting. I don't know if this is true or not, so I'm hoping that the council reps are gonna confirm this. Visiting some mosques or even some of the shops to see whether we're complying or not complying. So let's get a quick update. Lucy, if I may turn to you firstly for some clarity.
Hi, good evening, and thanks so much for having me on. As listeners will be aware, nationally we're seeing an increase in the number of cases. The population of Luton have been amazing, and from the end of July, when we had really quite high rates of case numbers in Luton, the actions of our community have been brilliant at bringing those case rates right down. And so in Luton, we're actually at a lower level than the national average. That's an amazing achievement, but it's still higher than we would wish it to be in Luton, and so we cannot stop doing the four things that make a difference. Keeping our distance, wearing a face covering when we're in places where we can't keep a distance, in shops or on public transport, washing our hands for 20 seconds or using hand sanitizer, and isolating as soon as you've got symptoms. So you don't wait for a test, you isolate as soon as you have any symptoms. And those are the things that our population can do to really help us keep those numbers down.
I've got a couple of questions from my listeners. We've had a call in too. So I want to go to Aslam Saab. Okay, in terms of is the council liaising with the community about what's happening? Right, there's some very key questions here. Are we talking to the faith communities, and is there feedback coming back from those communities? Councillor Aslam, what's happening in terms of that engagement? Tell us something.
Well, you would have seen, I think there's the update weekly and twice weekly at times. Lucy's been leading with them, and community leaders as well as faith community in particular have been in attendance, have been getting regular updates. And radio channels such as yours have been really instrumental in getting those messages across. And that's the reason why we have been able to get those messages out. And like Lucy said, the people have been in Luton have been amazing. And so we've seen those peaks early in June, and then we've seen those numbers come down. And that really gets to show how communication team is working really hard to get everyone to be aware of the risks and make sure they keep their distance, they wash their hands, things that Lucy have said. So clearly those messages are working, but we are testing. So because of that, you're seeing some of the numbers obviously increasing, and we can't be complacent.
All right. So Lucy, tell me about what's been happening in the schools, because there's been a number of reports, right, with regards to some of the year groups being sent home, right, from a number of schools across Luton. What's the update? And what about is the school concept of the school bubbles working?
So just to be really clear, school bubbles are a way of doing social distancing. They're a way of keeping one group of children separate from another group of children. That helps us to reduce the risk of transmission.
Okay, good.
Some schools are able to do very small bubbles, classroom size bubbles. Some schools are kind of doing bubbles within a bigger bubble. So there might be some interaction, and then some schools are doing whole year group bubbles. But they are really important as a way of keeping groups of children separate, but also allowing them to have a usual school experience, that those children inside that bubble can have close contact with each other. So particularly for young children, they can play with each other, and that's really important. Our schools have done a fantastic job at implementing bubbles. They are working really hard to make sure that those bubbles remain secure and that there's not crossover between them, so that if we get a positive case, the fewer number of children as possible are asked to self-isolate for the 14 days. We haven't had any incidents in Luton where we've had to send too many children home. We have tried to keep that as low a number as possible, but equally we need to make sure that we reduce the risk of transmission to other children in the school. So we've generally been sending classroom size bubbles home. It's a couple of schools where we've had to send whole year, but it will vary between schools. So so some of your listeners might think, well, why has my child in year 7 only the class been sent home when that school over there has sent the whole of year 7 home? And it's very much dependent on the arrangement at the schools. We're working really closely with head teachers to make sure children and staff remain safe through this.
Okay, so that's good. You actually preempted my question, and that was the difference between some of the schools. And is it the whole year or is it the class, right? So you're saying it is down to specific schools, but there is a close correspondence and guidance from the council to the schools.
So what we've done over the last week is Public Health England have been advising schools up until now. They are so busy at the moment that we in Luton Council have set up a team specially to support schools, so that schools can get rapid advice, but they can get local advice from people that they know and trust. So I'm leading a team of public health and education specialists that are advising all of the schools. So if a school has a concern about a suspected case or a confirmed case, they can get reliable local information quickly, and we know the schools, so we can work with them to make sure that what's going on is safe. But I will emphasize that we want to send the fewer number of children home as possible, so that their education isn't disrupted. So we might actually see, as time moves on, that we won't be sending whole bubbles home. We'll be sending children around the child. That's the next step, to see if we can get cleverer and more sophisticated around this, so that we don't disrupt children's education.
Yep, I like the sound of that, Lucy. That definitely sounds like a good idea if we can obviously support that empirically. and practically. Councillor Aslam Sahab, I want to come back to you. I mean, based upon what Lucy's telling me, I've got a question from a listener. Is there a possibility of a local lockdown? Based upon what Lucy's telling me, I don't think so at this stage. It looks like we're doing the right thing and we've got the right kind of, we're heading in the right direction, right? So that's a question for you. And then also, you know, as someone who frequents some of the local, you know, places of worship, right? Mosques in this case, I have seen personally, and I'm not trying to be biased because being a Muslim, but I've seen the mosque doing a fantastic job, really ensuring that they're applying the guidelines, they're using this hand sanitizers, social distancing, masks, etc. Based upon the feedback that you're getting, do you share those sentiments? Are you happy with the places of worship? Are there any questions? And what's the feedback coming back from the COVID compliance officers? I mean, is there such a thing as a COVID compliance officer? I don't know if this is a myth or if that's a reality, and what is their jurisdiction? Maybe a question for you or for Lucy.
Well, first of all, I'd like to appreciate the work that Lucy and our faith community have done, as well as our educational team who work very closely with schools to ensure that they are as safe as possible. So they've done a tremendous job, and our mosques have played a leading role ensuring all the people who attend Friday prayers or other prayers, there's enough social distancing and other safety measures in place. In fact, they are some of the best in the country. I was at Jamia Ghasia today, and I was really pleased that everyone was compliant. They had face masks, they had their own mats, and there were hand sanitizers, there were registers, there was temperatures being taken. So, you know, a lot of these mosques have invested within their own system to make sure that they are compliant and also is safe for our worshippers to attend those places. But coming back to the schools, I'm really proud to say that, you know, vast majority of our schools are open, and teachers and kids are happy to be back. And we've had only very small number of those bubbles going home. And that really gets to show how hard our head teachers and our public health and education team has worked. So that's why we have been able to bring those figures down. Now, in order to preempt whether there's going to be another lockdown or not, well, you know, guidelines are changing, but what we must make sure that we follow the 6 household rule. We need to make sure that we maintain that social distance, we maintain and observe those guidance, and that's what's kept us safe, and that's what's kept the figures down. So we have to take that responsibility. Just one more thing. When parents are dropping off their kids outside the schools, I would encourage everyone not to hang around once they drop their kids and to keep their distance. That's an area where the schools are stretched so much that they cannot manage the parents outside the school. So it's our responsibility and everyone's responsibility to do this.
Thank you very much. Very, very quickly, Lucy, last question. Compliance officers, COVID compliance officer, tell me about this. The COVID compliance officers, what's a remit, and what's been the feedback from them when they've been out and about, supervising, monitoring, whatever their jurisdiction and unit is.
So I think there are 2 things that have kind of been mixed into that pot. So we don't have COVID compliance officers in Luton. We do have, as Councillor Khan mentioned, we work very closely with our community and faith groups. And they said that they would like us to have a more visible presence around the work we were doing to make sure that premises were COVID secure. So we have been working with businesses to make sure that they're COVID secure. It's not in a punitive way, it's not in a punishing way, it's about making sure that they have everything they need and then recognising good practice. And you may have seen some of our other councillors visiting premises and putting out on social media some of the excellent practice that they see, and that's part of the work of those officers. The other thing around visiting houses is contact tracing. And we've got local contact tracers who are going and visiting people's houses, but only if there's a positive case there. And I would just say that there are some unscrupulous people there who are trying to take advantage. If somebody comes to your house and says they're from the council and they don't show you a Luton Council badge with the Luton logo on, then don't speak to them and ring the council, and we will tell you if you've had a visitor. Please don't speak to anybody that you're unsure about, especially if they don't show you a photo ID.
So that is a very, very important point you mentioned right at the end. And have we had stories or have we had incidences where people have where there's been cases of fraud or even attempted burglary or whatever, where people were pretending to be COVID compliance officers, right? So listeners need to be very, very careful, and let's take the advice that's been given by Councillor Aslam Khan and Lucy with regards to be careful with regards to anyone who is purporting to be an officer of COVID compliance from the
another word.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, Councillor Aslam. I've got other guests waiting for me, and I'm already being told by the producers you need to wrap it up. But thank you very much. I'm sure we'll have another update next week, so we'll speak then, if that's okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Fantastic, Councillor Aslam. Thank you very much for joining us this evening on Friday Night Live. Listeners, that was the councillor and representatives giving a quick update on the COVID-19 situation. And I think very important comments right at the end with regards to we need to be careful. If someone knocks on your door purporting to be from the council, COVID compliance, right, you know what, make sure with everyone you check their identity, you check their identity card, and you verify and confirm they are who they're purporting to be and why they're there. Anyway, let's move on because we've got a last guest for this conversation, inshallah, and that's Brother Abdul Ghafoor, Community Engagement Lead and from Luton Council of Mosques. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Abdul Ghafoor.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah, Sheikh. Jazakallah khair for joining us on Friday Night Live. Hopefully, inshallah, we're going to be getting a couple of updates from you, I believe, this evening. Firstly, with regards to, it'll be good to get a quick update, Abdul Ghafoor, in terms of our masajids and where our masajids are with not only COVID compliance, but reopening and how it's been for the last couple of weeks or not months since we've opened some of those masajids. And then there's also another initiative that you want to give us an update on, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jazakumullah khairan, and alhamdulillah, touched upon by Councillor Aslam in the last call, actually. He talked about the faith communities locally and how they've responded so well, both in terms of preparation and also just ensuring levels of social distancing within the masjid, closing off wash facilities, ensuring that all of the musallun do bring with them a prayer mat or cleaning straight after they've left as well. So fantastic provision by all of the faith facilities locally, masajid as well as other faith communities.
Abdul Ghafoor, are all the masajid now open? Any that you are aware of that are still closed?
No, alhamdulillah, they're all open now, mashallah. Every masjid that was open up until recently, alhamdulillah, the last of them reopened as well, and they're offering Jumu'ah Salah as well as all of their 5 salawat.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, that's good news. And personally, I mean, I have to admit and I have to commend and congratulate all of our masajid. The masajid that I've visited, I mean, fantastic. Volunteers are outside, volunteers are guiding, volunteers are ensuring that the people pray the right places. They're using the hand sanitizers. They got the face mask. So a lot of effort is going in and fantastic work by all of the management and all of the volunteers. And I really want to call that out on radio whilst we're discussing this. Alhamdulillah. Right. So Abdul Ghafoor, also we're going to get a quick update from you with regards to this local initiative between a number of different pilots. Is it Luton pilot schools about the flu vaccination program? Give us a update on that, Abdul Ghafoor.
Yeah, absolutely. So alhamdulillah, Luton again has been the center of a pilot program. This pilot program has been running for the last 4 years now, and it's an alternative to the flu vaccine that's offered in primary schools up and down the country. So you may have heard, and even today we've seen Matt Hancock, the health secretary, talking about the importance of flu vaccines. Flu does kill every year, kills more people than COVID has killed, and is a massive contributor to at-risk communities, both those that are young as well as those that are elderly, pregnant women, and those with other health conditions as well. So although we don't have a COVID vaccine, we absolutely do have a flu vaccine, and it's important to build the immunity, especially as children are going back into schools. So the challenge has always been that the flu vaccine that's rolled out nationally and available to most primary schools does contain pork derivatives. And the NHS and Public Health England have been cognizant of that. They've run a pilot in Luton with 10 schools this year. In the past, it was 1 school, and they extended that to 10 last year. And again, this year, it's actually 9 schools because one of those schools the Olive Tree Primary School is not actually open this year, and therefore it's available to the 9 schools. And those 9 schools are the same schools that took place last year. They include Beechwood Primary, Denby Primary, Damside, Icknield, Leagrave, Maidenhall, Mehdiya, Oakwood, and
what does that mean? Does that mean the children that go to those schools have access to this flu vaccination? Is that what we're saying?
Absolutely. So every one of the children of that school, their parents can consent that they have a flu injection, which doesn't have any pork derivatives in it, and it's suitable for vegan and faith communities.
Right. Okay. Fine. And is there anything for the parents to worry with regards to the flu vaccine and all of this COVID going around at the moment? Is there a reluctancy or a hesitancy there, or is it more important, do you think, based upon your research and understanding, that they get this flu vaccination for the children?
Yes, so you're seeing, I'm sure you're going to see as we potentially hear about a second lockdown, the importance of the flu vaccine. Matt Hancock, the health secretary, did say that all NHS workers have to have it. He does realize that by building their immunity, they'll be safer and better protected. So absolutely, it's more important this year than any other year. So we really need to, inshallah, take full advantage of it. And one of the most important points is, if those parents actively get involved and we see an increase in them adopting, then it gets rolled out, not just regionally, but nationally. It will be offered to all other schools as well.
Thank you very much, Abdul Ghafoor. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thank you very much for joining us on Friday Night Live, brother.
Thanks very much.
Okay, listeners, that was Brother Abdul Ghafoor. Very important updates with regards to the children's vaccinations. And of course, these are without the pork derivatives in them, available in those 10 schools. Further information available from Inspire FM website. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. 2 hours have gone. Great to hear from you all, those of you that have contributed through the social media platform, Facebook page. Jazakallah khair. Until next week, it is Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.